Good evening, everyone. It's Jazz. It's the West Ham live chat show. We're going to be talking about events that have happened from the Luton game up to today. And as you can tell from the title on the screen, as usual with our club, even though we haven't had any league games since that point, there's been so much going on and lots to talk about, really. So before we get into it, a warm welcome to Ian, the Bearded Hammer. How are you, mate?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Back off holiday, ready for Manchester City at the weekend.
Yeah, all games coming thick and fast, aren't they? And bottom of my screen, we have the respected Mike Manera. Mike on a Monday. Some of you might have known him from his Hammers chat time. Mike, it's been ever so long. Such a pleasure to have you back, my friend. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. I'm not quite sure who I'm respected by. Certainly, various landlords in this area that wouldn't say that, but yeah, it's great to be here, Jay. Great to be here with you.
Yeah, Mike was one of the first that joined me, and when we first started the channel, and the channel I had before here. And yeah, it's been, it's like you said, Mike, running channels, mate. It's like, I got to a point, I'm like, I had so many things to do in my private life in terms of work and other stuff going around the house. I just took a break, and lucky I took a break. And then we started to win, Mike. We won the Europa. So I've got to ask you, like I did with the rest of the lads, what were you doing on that day of the final, and what were your feelings, mate, afterwards?
I watched it at home with my son, who struggled to watch it because he was so emotionally fraught. I think he's scarred for life just through the sheer tension of it. He's 11, I would add. Do you know what I mean? So
yeah.
And I was sort of pointing out to him, that I was 13 when West Ham last won something. I mean, that's how long ago it was, And we watched the game, couldn't believe it when Bowen scored because we all knew that had won the game, didn't we? Do you know what I mean? When he was put through, we were out of our seats going, just put it in, And
yeah.
It did. And both of us burst into tears.
I did as well. I got very emotional, and I was watching it at home. First of all, so many things in my mind, Mike. Now looking back, I should have been out there, Prague. I think I overthought the situation and didn't even go to London thinking how I'm going to get back, and watched it at home with neighbours in the garage. And I think that if I could do it again, I'd definitely want to be around the West Ham family, the fans, I think. So, yeah, it's funny, isn't it? But yeah, it's the first thing we've won, Mike, since I started supporting him in '83. And yeah. Good day, that was really good day. So before we get into it, we've got Steve Chiley, who I know Mike remembers from the channel. Steve, so Steve's doing all right. He's shout out to Steve. He's got because what Steve told me back in the day was he used to have a Twitter account with about 20,000 followers, and he stopped that. Now he's on Facebook and he's building up a big following there. I think he's hit 3,000 nearly, and he gave a very nice shout out to the channel. So really thank you for that, Steve. Carry on, mate, and I hope you're doing good. Steve can't join the channels because there's something wrong with his phone or the login, so we'll get that sorted for him at some point. But that's kind of Steve. Good old loyal guy, mate. There you go. All the banter started already.
Thanks, Steve.
I told him yesterday. He said, "Oh, who's Mike?" And then he remembered. Lee, how you doing, my friend? Hope you're doing well, mate. Got Frankie coming in as well. It's getting nice and cozy in here, everyone. Do the hand signals, Frankie. All right, let me see how we're going to fit all you guys in, mate. Let's see. That looks a bit, I don't know, that's a bit funky, isn't it? I don't know, we'll see how we deal with that.
Frankie, mate, I'm sorry I'm on top of you there because I won't tell you.
Mate, it's good to see you're alive, Mike. I ain't seen you for a while, my man. It's good to see you still with us.
Good to be here. Still got Mad Professor hair, as was pointed out. And it's good. Yeah, no need to touch me knee, though, mate. That's all right. Keep it.
Let's get into... Yeah, like I was saying before Frankie came, we're going to touch upon some of the things that have gone on since the Luton game. And we haven't had a league game since that point, but as our club is, every day there's something happening, really. So let's go sort of back to front from today. So the kind of breaking news was Fornals. Apparently, running up, contract runs out next summer. Not sure if there's an extension for another year like there is with some players.
It's not.
He's been in and out. Don't know what to make of him. I know he's a great human being, great guy around the ground. He gives his 100% when he plays. For me, I know some of you know his best position. I don't know where he can fit in, whether in the CDM position. Is he strong enough to be CDM? A winger, left wing, I don't think he enjoys it. Don't quite has the pace or the trickery. And then even over the 3, 4, 5 years, whatever he's been with us, 184 games, 23 goals, 19 assists. Listen, not bad for someone who's largely been in and out all the time. But why has the club left it so late that now he's free to speak to clubs in January? I think Sevilla at the forefront who want him. He nearly went in the summer, apparently. I don't know what happened in the end. What is his value in the market? It's going to be something reasonable that we would need rather than let him go in the free, really. So starting with you, Mike, Fornals, what does Fornals mean to you? What do you think about the developing story? And why hasn't it quite worked out for him? 2-3 questions there for you, mate.
I think, okay, so let's get started. He hasn't got an extension. This is his last year. Seville came in for him, didn't they? And then didn't buy him because why would they? They can get him for free next year. Why would you pay that kind of money? If I was Fornals, I would go for free for someone in the summer. I'm a West Ham supporter because he isn't a regular first team player. He's not getting the minutes to start with. 2, he's got a young family. I probably want to bring him up in Spain. It's whatever works for him at this point, isn't it, really? He's got all the cards here. He can play for Spain, in Spain or in England, but it's not worked out for him at West Ham largely because of the change of manager. I think that he was bought by Pellegrini, wasn't he? And he doesn't. I think Fornals is a really good player. Let me make that absolutely clear. I think he's a really good player. In a lot of teams, he would be a first-team starter. If a team like, say, Leicester had him last year in their midfield, they wouldn't have gone down.
Crystal Palace, something like that, yeah.
Because he would have been that difference, those extra couple of points that would have kept them up. I really think that. It's because he can kind of do everything. He works hard. He's not a ball carrier, but he's a very good passer of the ball, and he's a good finisher in the box as well. He's wayward as well. He's not a striker, is he? So they either go in row X or the back of the net. He never gets it just wide, does he? Fornals, But he is, and he's a good big game player as well. He always turns in performance in a big game. Luton away is a sort of game where he could go missing. But so you've got that. You've got the change of manager thing. He's not a moist player. He's not super pacey. He's industrious, but he's not really got the physicality to play in central midfield. Look at who Moyes has got in midfield now. They're brutes, aren't they? Even Paqueta is like, chunky. He's a muscular man, isn't he? Do you know what I mean? He's hard to knock off the ball, etc. And he's like the arty midfielder, isn't he? I mean, he hasn't got the pace to play well. It's a shame because he's actually quite good there. Like his positioning's good, his work rate's good, but he's got no pace at all, and he doesn't really fit into that deep playing philosophy. He's and counter-attacking philosophy. He's a player that would excel in a team that like to keep the ball, which we are not, and that's where his problem lies at West Ham. I'm confused as to why it's been let go on like this because we should really be getting money for him. I confidently predict he'll go for free in the summer, and he will be a player that plays. He's Lanzini last year, isn't he? The player that plays in Europe and comes on in the second half, etc. But his best position, I feel, is that number 10 role or a number 8. And we are well stocked in them now, aren't we? Now we've got Kudos, we've got Paqueta, we're well stocked in them. So if he was injured for the rest of the season, ask yourself something. How much would we miss him? Do you know what I mean? Like, if he had a bad injury and was out, would it make a huge difference to the outcome of the season? Well, someone like Paqueta or Aguerd or Ward-Prowse would, really would. Or Bowen, or obviously, or any of those players. I'm just throwing it out there as a question as well that you might want to, other guys want to mention. But that's my view on it. I like him a lot. I can see why he doesn't fit into this team, as I've already explained. But I think he'll end up going for free in the summer. I doubt we'll be able to save him in January. And no one's going to pay money for someone that can get 6 months. And they'll be queuing up for him. He's a good player. They will queue up for him. He'll have a lot of offers. But yeah, that's where I see it going.
Yeah. What about you, Ian? I mean, is it a case of that where we don't have enough money that we can just leave him on the bench and he's not happy either? So as a human being, 1-to-1, if you don't want to stick around, you got to move in on, and he hasn't moved on, mate.
It's a difficult one. I think Mike summed it up sort of perfectly. Really, he does suit that possession orientated system, which is not West Ham at the moment. I mean, I like him as a player. I think he's a good character to have around the dressing room. I don't think it's a question of have we got enough money when you look at all these projections and stats coming out about West Ham being like the 10th richest club in the world and things like that. I think it's more of a case of is he happy to be a bit part player in the squad? And I think the answer to that of any footballer worth their salt is no. No one wants to be the bit part player, do they? They don't want to be the squad player. I would happily keep him on as a rotation option. I think if players are getting tired, he is a workhorse. He is someone that's going to come in and give you effort, which I think is as a minimum what West Ham fans ask for. You come on, give us 100%. Even if you have an off day, you've given 100%, and I think we all can respect that. It's just a case of is he happy? Is he happy to do that? And I don't think he will be. I think he'll want to go and play week in, week out. I do think he could go somewhere else, lower sort of Premier League in January if someone's dying out for a playmaker, because he has got a bit of skill in him. He has got a bit of a pass in him. He can be, if you focus the system around him, he could be that creative outlet. But I just don't think he's gonna get that at West Ham unless we do get some serious injuries. So I mean, I think you could even see sort of like a Burnley coming in for him.
I think he only wants to go back to Spain. What I'm hearing, I'm not sure, but that's
I think he's going to have plenty of options, isn't he?
Spain or Burnley, mate? Which one did you pick?
Well, I think I'd rather.
No, Mike's smiling.
No, but do you know what I mean? There could be Premier League clubs that want to come in for him that need that creative boost to try and stave off the drop. But I just think it is a case of if he's not happy sitting on the bench, then I don't begrudge him wanting to go play week in, week out.
Over to you, Frankie. Why is Frankie? You don't know what Frankie's going to say. That's why I love Frankie. You don't know which way he's going to go with Fornals.
We don't know what he's going to say either.
Yeah, let me see. I haven't. Yeah,
that better, mate?
Nah, perfect. Yeah, got you back. Yep, perfect.
I don't know what I'm going to say either, mate, to be perfectly honest. Part of me says we potentially may have missed out on a good player and maybe not seen Fornals at his full potential. Typical West Ham, sign a player and don't actually see them in all their glory because the way we use them, the way we play them and not making the most of their abilities. And I would have liked to have seen him in his more natural role in behind the strikers and being that sort of creative player that unlocks defences, because at times we've screamed out for that over the last few years. And when we stick him out on the wide sort of, on the left and had him tracking back and covering defenders and stuff like that. And this old story of Fornals tracks and does tackling and defending is a myth. If you look at what he actually does when he tracks back, he very rarely wins the ball. He very rarely gets the ball back off of him. He'll put himself in there. He'll be a bit of a nuisance, but he's very ineffective at that defensive side of his game. So I think the worst thing that I heard was when people were screaming out for him to play more of a central midfield role, a box-to-box or a holding midfield role. That is not his game and never will be his game. He is that number 10. He's in behind the strikers. He's a creative player. And I think at times he tries passes that maybe the rest of our team won couldn't even see if they had the ball where he is, and 2, wouldn't be able to play the pass if they wanted to. However, I had a lot of to say with him, with Gio from Hammer's Chat, because Gio was his fanboy and always backed him and said he's a fantastic player and he's going to go on to be, you know, one of the West Ham greats. And I always told him, I don't think he's as good as he thinks he is. I think for the Premier League, you either got to have a bit of pace or you've got to have a bit of physicality about you, either or. Yeah. And he lacks both. And because he lacks both, he struggles in the Premier League. He will be suited to Spanish football. He'll have more time on the ball. He'll have more time to look up and pick his passes. He won't have people nibbling at his ankles quite as much. He won't have people pushing him off the ball quite as much. And he'll probably be, the end of his career, very effective in Spanish football. I don't know how I feel about it. I always knew he wouldn't be a West Ham great. I always knew he wouldn't go on to be a fantastic West Ham player. And I never felt like he would have that much effect on the Premier League. But part of me still thinks maybe I haven't seen the best of him.
Yeah, I think, it hasn't worked out. And we paid 24 million euros or more. I know every team apart from the Premier League across Europe, they're skint. They haven't got no money. And I can't see a club paying any money in January if they can get him in the summer. So I don't know if we're going to get anything back. So I don't know why we kind of slipped our minds to sort this out. And it is one or two things, really. Before we go on to the next question, Frankie, let's talk about your event.
Yes.
So, if anyone doesn't know, Frankie has got a bit of a track record in organising events that are well-run, professional, good value for money, really, really good. And he did a couple of them around Europa, including the final. That went really well. Sold out, I believe, and could have sold out a good more than what the capacity was. And exciting news, Frank. You've signed up with the West Ham Way lads, ex-employee in Dave Walker, who've been running events on the West Ham Way sort of label for a number of years. I was a regular there. And tell us a bit more about the joint venture with them. And the first one is going to be at the Sheffield United game at Colour Factory opposite Hackney Wick Station. And Martin Allen is going to be going forward, replacing Mark Ward as the host, which I'm really excited about. I love Mark Ward, equally love Martin Allen. And the first guest is Ian Bishop, who is from when I started watching West Ham live, mate. So, go ahead, mate. Explain what's going to go on with that one, mate.
Yeah, I mean, it's taken us a little while to sign everything and get everything how we wanted it. We obviously did the events for the semi-final and final. We also did the event for the semi-final the previous year. It grew and grew. We started off with our little outdoor venue of, 300-400 people. And then we grew to 800 people for the semi-final. And then the final, we ended up hosting about 2,200 people. So across 2 venues. So everyone seemed to enjoy them. They're very relaxed. They're very, just what you'd expect from a typical football environment, mate. They're not too rigid. They're not too, there's nothing that's too, over-organised about them. It's very much relaxed. It lets everyone enjoy themselves. And we wanted to create something. The Colour Factory and our other venue both pushed me to create what would be more of a supporters club feel for every game. And I wasn't confident that I could deliver or offer enough value on my own to give this longevity and make it something that everyone would always want to do before every match. And the way that I felt that we could best achieve that was by teaming up with the West Ham Way. The old venue was a great venue for them, but it wasn't close enough to the stadium. This venue is obviously a 10-minute walk from the ground, so it's really close. For people who are coming into London via tube, it's opposite the Hackney Wick train station. You step out the station, it's in front of you. So it's a 2-minute walk from Hackney Wick train station. And actually coming in from that side of the area, that side of the stadium, much less queuing, a lot less crowds to battle. Actually, it's a breeze getting through security on that side of the stadium as well. So there's a lot of pluses to it. And we just wanted to create something that would, I felt like all round West Ham was lacking a match day experience. We don't really have the pubs anymore. We don't typically have anything that's, a destination for people to go to before matches. I think the Hammers Chat boats are good. They're really close by. But again, I think they're great for something that's a little bit more, you can just get a drink. We wanted to put on an event. We wanted to put on something that would set you up before a match with a 2-hour show. And obviously the Colour Factory's technical, the equipment they've got in there is incredible. The screens are brilliant. If there's an early kickoff, we'll be able to screen the match. We'll have the event obviously going on stage. We'll have music. We'll have obviously the guests as well. It's going to be a real proper event before a match. We've agreed discount prices for drinks as well, so it won't be the typical London venue prices. We've managed to get a beer price which is really affordable and much better for people. So yeah, that's it really. The first event is obviously the Sheffield United game. Doors will open at 11 o'clock. That will run right up until 2:30, and then people can leave it with half an hour to get to the ground with only a 10-minute walk to get to the stadium. So absolutely ideal. We've got Ian Bishop, we've got Martin Allen. We've got a lot of videos prepared from obviously last season and some really emotional stuff that's going to be put in there. It's going to be a production, mate, is what I would say. And it will get everyone ready for the game.
Yeah, it's exciting for me because I know what those guys can do. I know what you can pull off, which is going to be professional. And I used to have a VIP table with them a lot. And for me, and one final thing to say is, it's a great way of meeting players from the past that you used to love, and they've taken out time to meet you guys. You can ask them personal questions. You can get things signed. I'm not sure, but I'll clear up with Frankie whether that's going to carry on or not. And it's a good venue, easily walk. And the only thing I need to advertise a bit more, Frankie, how do you get tickets, like in terms of the website address or email address, mate?
Yeah. So that will be going out live this evening. I've got one image that I need to change on the ticketing thing. So it'll be on Ticket Tailor. That will be pushed by X this evening.
I'll share that.
There are discounts for patrons of the West Ham Way and Supporters Club members. But there's also VIP as they used to have. So there's an all-inclusive drinks, beer, wine and soft drinks package where you've got your own table, your own seating area, loads of space, private bar, all that sort of stuff. And then you've got a general admission ticket if you just want to poke your head in and enjoy the show that's on the stage, and you can sort of mingle, stand. There is tables available that you could sit at, but it'll be on a first come, first serve basis. Mate, it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it.
Perfect, mate. Brilliant. Back to football. Mike, Bowen, some stories. I don't know if you've heard the stories coming out. He's got to sign an extension to his contract at some point. He hasn't been able to do so far. Rumours that he doesn't want to sign it if Moyes is going to be around. Then rumours that Moyes is going to get a 3-4 year contract, mate. So, and I know Klopp's a big fan of Bowen. I mean, he started the season fairly well. Didn't quite make it into the England squad, nor did Ward-Prowse. But that's another argument, mate. But yeah, what does Bowen mean to you, Mike, and all these rumours and things like that, mate, with him, especially after Rice has gone now?
I think if you've got a really good player, and Bowen's a really good player, in my opinion, then you're always going to get that. You're always going to get it. We've always had that view. I mean, look, in the summer, obviously, Rice went, Man City nearly got Paqueta. If you've got good players, other teams are going to want them. It just comes with the territory. I'm not convinced that he's ready to go. And I understand the whole thing with Salah and the Saudi club are going to offer 250 million or something stupid for him. I mean, he would be the ideal thing, wouldn't he? Because he's like, the same religion as the Saudi thing, everything like that whole thing with the, he's like the most famous like Arabic player ever, isn't he? Why would they not want him? So they will move heaven and earth to try and get Salah off Liverpool. It's an obvious leap to go, Liverpool have looked at Bowen before, they will look at him now. I don't think he would fit in with what they do, actually. I think he's not Salah, is he? Do you know what I mean? He's who is. I get that. I don't know. I just think it's an obvious thing to say. I think he's quite settled here. He's married Danny Dye, kill him, wouldn't he? Danny Dye's daughter, Danny, as well, which is odd. and they've got twins and everything. He's very settled in the area. I think he quite enjoys being a big fish in a slightly smaller pond, if you get what I mean. I think that he's got in the England team before. I don't think playing for West Ham stops anyone. Rice was in it all the time. He was playing the England team before. All Prowse got in the England team playing for Southampton. I don't see why playing for West Ham would stop you doing that, especially at the moment as we're doing pretty well. I doubt very much whether he's got issues with Moyes, because Moyes brought him in and has backed him all the way. I still think Bowen's the best striker at the club, by the way, as well, as we stand. But hey,
yeah,
he's a really good player. I think he's first name on the team sheet, surely. I mean, and like I find it. I think we will offer a contract to him that he'll want to sign. I can't see. I don't think he'll go. I don't think Liverpool will come in for him. I think we would want Rice-esque money for him if anyone did want to buy him, and rightly so. And what is he now? He's not ancient, is he? He's what, 25, 26, am I right? I don't know.
Yeah, you're not far off, I think. Yeah, about that, yeah.
So I mean, he's at peak Bowen, isn't he? Do you know what I mean? He doesn't get injured. He's just like, do you know what I mean? He's just one of those players that's like, you just think, you think of like those players that are always being injured, and he's just there, isn't he? I mean, he's just always available.
He's very strong.
There's a lot. He's got that low centre of gravity, that stockiness, but he's still quick. He's got lightning butt, but he's quick enough. Very skillful, great finisher on that left foot of his. And I mean, I can't. I really think West Ham will just go and dump 200 grand a week on him or something, because they're going to have to on that.
I'm not sure. Again, let's see how this season develops. I think a lot of the players. I think everyone is looking at our club in the last couple of years that we do have a good squad. We've done all right. And like Paqueta, City were looking at him. Klopp's looking at, a couple of our players. We'll see how that goes, really. Ian, what about you, mate? Mr. Bowen. What does Mr. Bowen mean to you, mate, and the rumours?
I think, firstly, Mike's given Liverpool a whole list of why they should buy him. He is very good. I think we should be trying to make him one of our best paid players, if not the best paid player. Give him a lucrative deal. Even if you put a ridiculous buyout clause in them. Do you know what I mean? So if someone comes in with this money, you're free to walk. Will that sway his opinion of wanting to sign for us again? I don't know. I mean, he took a little while to get going, didn't he, under Moyes? He bought him and then he didn't play him for a while. But yeah, I do think he's one of our better players. We need to keep him. I don't like the fact that there's always that sort of unknown with our good players, because you don't like to think we're a selling club, but what tends to happen if you look over history with some of our big players is we turn down a really big offer and then 6 months later they go for peanuts. So I mean, if we do get a silly offer for him, will he go? I don't know. I really don't know. I would prefer not to, but I would never say never with the current circumstance around the club. If we don't do well in Europa League, which I'm sure we'll get onto later, then it's a no-brainer, isn't it? That he could play at the top level. He could walk into most squads. So why wouldn't he? I'd prefer that not to be the option, but he's going to want to play at the top level.
Yeah, I think for me, I think Salah will end up in Saudi at some point, because he's an Arab. He's the best player that's ever come from that region. I think it will happen. It will be crazy and close to 200 million. I think he will come for Klopp. Sorry, Klopp will come for Bowen. Yep. And I'm at that stage. I could be wrong, but so far I've got a feeling we're a better all-round team after Rice has gone and the way we've spent the money. Very early days yet. I think we look a bit better in a couple of areas, and I think if Bowen goes, I've just got to think that we're going to carry on. Again, invest that money in the right way, bring 3-4 in. How much he'll go for, I don't know. Hopefully we'll double our money at least, I think, and anything extra, we'll see how that goes. That's kind of what I'm thinking. Before I go to Frankie, we've got Superman with us, Gate C. Superman after his lunch dinner. How are you feeling, mate?
If only. I'm more...
You didn't pay your broadband bill. I can't hear you. We'll let him come back in. I'll pass. Yeah, we'll go over to you, Frankie. Bowen, mate. Bowen. I know he can improve his finishing now and again, but doesn't he get injured a lot? Yeah, runs around, doesn't he, and does his stuff?
He does, mate. I think it's really interesting when you've got a young one. It takes you back to the days when you were younger and you want to be entertained. And we're not the most entertaining team in the world, but players like Bowen do have that bit of a spark that I think you need. And, when you ask him who his favourite players are, I used to be able to reel off Di Canio's, Joe Cole's, Jermaine Defoe's. It's so easy for me to reel off exciting players. He struggles. Bowen's the only one he's really got, to be honest. It's the only one that he can really pick out as a player that excites him, your goal-scoring man, the player that he sort of idolises. So if he goes, who else have we got? I think, but for the right money, because of Bowen's inconsistencies and how he blows so hot and cold, I'm almost inclined to say that if you do use the money wisely and you do improve, then and someone who is a bit more consistent, he just goes missing at times, mate, don't he? That's the only problem. I love him. I think he's a great player. I think he's our danger man. I think he's always the man that can make things happen. But I just watch him sometimes, and you can go through a whole game at times and not even really known he's been on the pitch, to be perfectly honest. So, it's one of them ones. But then you got memories from Leon and things like that, and the moments he gave us there, and obviously the final. I mean, really, these are the players that, if you want to go anywhere in football, you've got to hold on to these players, mate. At the moment, he's still by far the most exciting player we've got. But again, I think my biggest thing that I take from it, mate, again, is just why does this information always come out this early on? There's still negotiations going on. How much money has he been offered? We don't know. And all of a sudden we get the same old West Ham rubbish that things are being leaked to unsettle the player, to almost make the fans turn on them and force them into force their hand a little bit. And I don't like it, mate. I don't like it. And, I wish we acted a bit more professionally at times. And, and that's the point. Why does everyone think Bowen's not signing? He may not have signed the deal that's on the table right now, which is probably a low ball, like we always know West Ham like to play, and they don't want to give away a penny more than they have to. Who's not to say that he's just not agreed where it is and wants more? And to be fair to him, I think he's probably the man who can put himself in the position of saying, I should now be the club's top earner, mate. I've won you a European trophy in the last minute of a game. I'm your main man. And if he's looking around him and he's seeing people like Areola on 120 odd grand a week and so on, and he's on 60 odd grand a week, then I'm sure he probably is holding out to be get the biggest contract that he can. So, I'd like to know a little bit more about the full detail of things before we really start saying that Bowen's just not signing, period. I'm not quite sure that's exactly where we are, to be honest.
Yeah, Casey, we lost you back then, mate. Take on the question of Bowen. What does Bowen mean to you? What do you think about the rumours? What do you think's going to happen, mate, with him? Oh, he's gone again.
Great question, Jazz.
Casey. Right, okay. Okay, that's that. God. Okay. Let's move on to the next question then. Aguerd, there's stories around Aguerd, wasn't there, about a week ago, in terms of Klopp again, City again, Saudi again. For me, again, he's made a couple of mistakes for me and doesn't look that assured at the back in terms of defending. So he's got to work on that for me. He got sent off as well, and there was a scary moment in the Luton game, wasn't it? When something nearly went wrong then, mate. Frankie, what do you think about Aguerd, mate? Links away from the club and how he started this season, mate?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, he prefers to be on the ball. He prefers to be on the front foot. I think he's not 100% suited to the way we play. There seems to be this communication issue with him and Areola and stuff, and they're all the sort of things you hope iron themselves out. Like I say, we've got to get away from being a selling club. I'm not saying that I want to say, but why we don't want to be a selling club. How many times have we been in this position where Diop, as an example, £50 million touted around his head and things like that, opportunities to cash in. You can see sort of they're good players, but there are, things that they have a small flaw in their game and whatever else. And, if he isn't going to, and we've got an abundance of central defenders at the moment, obviously one of the issues being Ogbonna's age, but, if the money was put up and the right sort of money for him, I think that he's probably the one that I would be most comfortable letting go. It's a tricky one. Part of me says don't sell. Part of me says we know he's got some flaws. If he keeps making mistakes and doesn't fit into the mould, and you've got an opportunity to really cash in on him, maybe for once we should get some money for a player and a bit of profit, as opposed to what we always do, hang it out too long, end up having them on the bench and barely playing, and then selling them for a pittance further down the line. So I guess it's whatever's in Moyes' head, whether he sees this as his main man or whether he sees our new guys as the people who are going to be in there. So
this comment I'm going to leave on the screen forever, but Casey, you lost you twice, my man. How you doing? You all right? Back on?
It's because I was on my phone and I've given up with that. The phone's pissing around too much, so I've gone on the laptop.
That's better. Dolby Digital. Yeah, we were talking about the rumours linked to Bowen and Aguerd. So if you can tell us what you think Bowen and Aguerd bring to West Ham, and what do you think about the rumours of them to? Will they eventually leave, or how do you see those two players fitting in for us next couple of years, mate?
Do you know what? It's weird with Bowen. I was a little bit surprised when I heard the news that he's been offered 3 new contracts and he's turned them all down. Because, correct me if I'm wrong, after the Luton game, and I don't know, you guys might have already touched on it before I've turned up here, so forgive me if I'm repeating what you guys have said.
Go for it, mate.
After the Luton game, he came out and he was like, well, we know that we sort of didn't do well last season, so we went back to basics, blah, blah, blah. And he seemed quite chipper. And I thought, oh, okay, he seems like he seems like he's buying into Moyes ball, if you will. So when it sort of come out that, oh no, he's turned down 3 contracts and looks like he could be off ski, I was like, not too sure what's going on there. I mean, Aguerd, the thing with him, I think he's an excellent player, but I think that he's looked a little bit suspect at certain points in the first 4 games this season, if I'm being honest. And he's got obviously a little bit of an injury record, so I don't know how I feel about him. The other one that I'm a little bit, because I don't know if you boys have heard, I'm sure you've heard the whispers about Pablo Fornals.
We spoke about him.
Yeah. And it's like, again, that's a real shame. He's someone that's come into West Ham. He's not an East End boy, Essex boy, or anything like that, but he's really sort of bought into the culture of the club and is a great character around the dressing room. But I don't know, is it David Moyes that's the reason why players are sort of wanting to have it on their toes? Do they want to go to a club that's maybe playing a little bit more open, expansive football rather than... And look, we've had a great start to the season, don't get me wrong, but I do understand when people turn around and say it's not really West Ham football of old sort of thing. So I don't know, mate. I think it's one of those, when we're winning and getting results and whatever, I think people sort of hold their nose and tolerate it. But then when the sort of results start going south, that's when you've got problems. So I don't know. Bowen, I'm really disappointed about. If it comes to pass that he's not going to be a West Ham player beyond, mate. I mean, I've heard stories that he might be off in January. I mean, that would be that would be catastrophic if that happened. Yeah. Absolutely catastrophic for our season, as far as I'm concerned, because he's been absolutely top draw for us. I mean, he had a little spell beginning of last season where he didn't quite look at his best, but after the World Cup, he was sensational. Obviously, got the winning goal in Prague and. Yeah, I'd be devastated if he left, mate. I can't lie.
Yeah, Mike, Aguerd, mate. What is Aguerd? What do you think about him, mate?
Right, I think Frankie actually touched on something I'm going to agree with him on here as well. I don't think... See, right, so earlier when we were talking about Bowen and we were talking about, the idea that he could be leaving, and I sort of said I'm not really buying into the rumours. I completely buy into the rumours with Aguerd, right? I think he could well be gone. And the reason is, Aguerd's great great attribute is pace. He is a recovery defender and should be in a team that plays with a high line. We don't. We play a low block. That is not his game, is it? And for that reason, I actually prefer seeing Bonner at that left side than I do Aguerd, because Aguerd's that recovery pace to come back when someone's got around the back of a defence is really, and his tackling is really good as well. He's a Rolls Royce of a player at tackling, but it's not the dominant aerial presence that, say, Zuma is. Yeah, do you get what I mean? And
yeah.
I've thought, well, Bonner is really good at blocking and heading, and as a low block team, that's what you want. So I know I'm fully aware that Aguerd's a better player than Bonner, only because of Bonner's age, obviously, right? But that's why I would rather see Bonner in the team. Now his future brings up a whole load of other stuff now, doesn't it? Because are we going to continue playing a low block? We know what that really means. Is Moyes going to stay? He's got 1 year left on his contract. If Moyes is staying and Moyes wants to carry on playing a low block, and he will, Moyes ball will be with us, then there isn't really any reason to keep Aguerd if you get a decent offer. I really think. And he would be brilliant at Liverpool. At Liverpool, with that ludicrously high line they love to play, imagine him and the amount of goals he'd save for them with that recovery pace he's got. It'd be great at Arsenal, or City, any team with a really high line, which is a lot of teams now. He'd be at Villa. He'd be amazing in Villa's team, wouldn't he? With that high line they play as well. And that's really what his game's about. And he's a passer of the ball. He's good at passing. We don't see that, do we? Because our defenders give the ball to the midfield, which is fair enough, because we've got Ward-Prowse who can ping them 40 yards onto a postage stamp. That's fine. I get that. I'm not criticising Moyes to stand. I'm just saying that he doesn't really fit in with what we're doing. On his day, in the right setup, he's a Rolls Royce of a defender, I think. But he's all right. He's making mistakes because he isn't a low block defender that the throw your body in front of the ball and head the ball out isn't what he's best at. He can do it, but we've got other players that can do that better. I don't know if I'm having Panos because I've never seen him play, but you know what? Bonner is actually really good at that shit. And if we're going to play that way, then play him, because you will get a lot of managers really like Aguerd, and I get why. Because he's got that pace, because he can pass the ball.
Pass the ball. That's why Pep's after him. I think if he's linked to him, the passing ability from the back. I think,
and I can see why he'd be ideal for him, and he's got that recovery pace as well. But they rely on what's his name, Walker, isn't it? They've got that always seems to bail them out when a team goes over the top past their high press. Yeah, he always comes whizzing back and gets into that central space. Then they've got Aguerd to do that then, and that he would be ideal for them, but he doesn't really suit what we play, which is kind of what Frankie was saying. I think I've just made it rather long-winded. Sorry.
That's what we love. Ian, same question to you, my man. Aguerd, you want him to stay? Want him to go?
I'd quite happy to see the back of him, to be fair. I think.
Ian,
go on, Ian. That's what I like.
Coming from E20 zone, he's spot on. I don't like him. I think he's a liability. He gives the ball away too much. He's injured a lot, and I think it's just one of those players that will spend more time on the injury table and sort of never quite being 100%, which makes him more of a liability than he would be in the squad. So I think if we get a bid for him, I know we paid 30 million for him not that long ago.
Bit more, I think, 33, 35.
Yeah, I think try and recoup some of that. I really he's not a player for me. I mean, everyone's got their own individual taste, but I just I don't like him. Get rid of him.
Ian, you're up with the little ones last night, innit, Ian? Letting it out now, mate. I think for me, when he came in, Rolls Royce, Tony Gale could bring it out from the front, good on the eye, silky smooth. But the mistakes every game, no understanding between the goalkeeper or Zuma. then keeps waiting for the goalkeeper to come out. He doesn't, and then we got into that little bit of a panic at Luton and 1 or 2 other games. But listen, the next window's in January, and we've got more games and more months to look at him. So let's see how it develops. Yeah, you never know. Football's weird where, yeah, he might have a niggle. I don't know. He might be playing with a niggle. I don't know. And maybe that's affecting it. But you never know. Football's a funny old game. He might not put a foot wrong now till January, or he might carry on down the same path. We don't know. But yeah, we'll see what happens, mate. James is with us, E20 Zone TV. Hope you're well, mate. Yeah. James mentioning unlucky injuries, not good. Yeah, let's see what happens, mate. Actually, we've got to talk about Banrama, James. You reminded me. You probably do it for another show. Me and Frankie looking at each other. We'll talk about that on another show, mate. Interesting developments with him. The future of Soucek, gentlemen. Gatesy, future of Soucek for you, mate, with obviously, the signings we've made and Ward-Prowse settling in down very nicely next to Alvarez. And then a few comments annoying me about Moyes saying Alvarez doesn't land until this evening. We're playing Saturday. He's already saying he doesn't want to start with him, mate. All those kind of things. So, yeah, the future of Soucek for you, mate.
He's not been the same player that we signed the first 18 months of his West Ham career. Let's be completely honest about it. He's been piss poor for a long while. I'm not going to lie. No, he has. I mean, let's say it as it is.
No, I agree.
The reason we had him in the first 18 months, he was scoring goals. He was sort of like getting on the end of things, set pieces, sort of getting in the box late. And it was all good. And there was talk about he was got interesting sort of like some of the big boys in Europe were sort of like sniffing around 60 million quid. I seem to remember was a figure that was being bandied around at the time. And for whatever reason, whether it's been, I do think that part of it was down to the sort of like the morphing of the roles between Declan Rice and Thomas Soucek last season, that whether that sort of like dented his confidence, dented his ego, I don't know what it's done, but it's affected him. His passing at times has been absolutely shocking. It was never a strength of his, even in the early days. But I mean, even sort of like there were times last season when I think in a 90-minute match, I seem to remember there was one time he made like about 8 or 9 successful passes. It's like for a central midfielder, that is absolutely abysmal. You're telling me you're a professional footballer, you're a Premier League footballer, international caps and all the rest of it, and you make sort of like 8 or 9 completed passes in a fucking Premier League match. Are you for real?
I think Chelsea. He struggled at Chelsea, didn't he? Yeah, Chelsea struggled, didn't he?
The whole team's been making about 8 passes per game, haven't they, this season? So ain't too bad.
Yeah, but I mean, he's been poor for a long while, and I think that the Thomas Soucek that we saw the first year and a half of him being at West Ham, I think that Thomas Soucek has long gone. I don't think we're going to see that Thomas Soucek back. And if we could sort of move him on at some point in the next January, in the January transfer window or the summer after that, and get a half decent amount of money for him and an adequate replacement, I wouldn't be against it.
Yeah, I think even in front of goal, there's been some chances that's just gone over the bar. So it's not going in for him. That used to cover up a lot of his game. He's got a good engine, but for me, again, watching live in the ground, when you're a CDM, it's all about tackles, interceptions, moving the ball along, which I'm seeing with Alvarez already. With him, it wasn't that many things where he would put his foot in and win the ball. Rice would often do it. He wouldn't. So I'm just thinking, after what we've got now, I think Brooke was saying, mate, at the moment, it looks like Ward-Prowse, Alvarez and Paqueta, I think. So whether we can again afford... Well, actually, he's got a new contract, isn't he? Him and Kufal are about to get a new contract. So that's what the club are thinking. Mike, I know we had done that great show of Soucek, didn't we, about a couple of years ago, Court Cage. Do you remember that one where, again, you put some great... It was Frankie and yourself, wasn't it? Me and Frankie wanted him out. You had some really good points, and you said that due to Rice and some of the different role he's been forced to play. Yeah, it's been the same kind of thing from there, isn't it, mate? Even the start to this season. I don't know what you think, Mike. Yeah,
I think that and I guess he's right. It's that thing, isn't it? About I think Rice changing his role for Soucek to change his. But let's not pretend that Soucek has been anything other than God's wallet for a while, hasn't he? I mean, but he's been better this season. I'm wondering whether the departure of Rice is freeing him up a little bit. He has been better this season. Having said that, the starting level wasn't that high, was it? Do you know what I mean? So we're talking about someone who's going to 4 or 5 out of 10 from 2 or 3. He isn't my favourite player. Let me make this clear. I would be, but we've given him a new contract. He isn't going anywhere. That's it. As far as Moyes loves him. Moyes absolutely loves him. He is a David Moyes player, isn't he? He's huge. He runs a lot, but very slowly. Do you know what I mean?
He runs into empty spaces for me, Mike. I mean, he runs for I don't know what purpose. He doesn't intercept, tackle, or do anything for me.
No, he isn't. He's never been, I think, a particularly good ball winner, and his passing is shocking. But did you see that assist for the Czech Republic that he got?
No, I didn't see
it. Honestly, the footwork was unbelievable, and the through ball off the chart. And you could tell after in the celebration, even he couldn't believe he'd done it. Do you know what I mean? It was a really, really absolute. If you can have a worldly assist, and I think you can, that was one. And you're like, I've never seen that from him ever.
Even a stopped clock is right twice a day.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. You're absolutely right. And I think that, unfortunately, he's once of his twice a day was part of the Czech Republic. We're stuck with him. We've given him a new contract. Moyes is going to play him. That the 3 in midfield you're talking about, and thank you very much, mate. And the 3 in midfield you're talking about, I will be 4. I think I'll go back to having Paqueta on the left, like he started before Soucek got injured, by the way. I think they'll all play. He always plays Soucek. I mean, Soucek could literally have had a leg amputated. He'd have him hopping around that pitch. Do you know what I mean? He would. He'd be on there. And just if it weren't for the concussion protocol, he would have left him on. He might have been facing the wrong way and asking for his family, but he would have been on the pitch anyway,
I mean, it is. I mean,
I'll tell you how slow Soucek is. He's quicker than dummy. Anyway, I digress.
No, but I think you're right. I mean, we move over to Frankie now, but I remember in the after Luton game, always mentioned that this is a type of game that would have suited Soucek, and I was very surprised by those comments. But Frankie, Soucek, mate, I mean, I think he's got a extension, mate, or about to happen for him and Kafal, I think.
Yeah, I mean, for me, mate, I watched the video back that we did on him in the early days, and we got so much stick. Me and Baz, when we had the channel and we was doing our bits and pieces on Claret and Blue Army TV, we come out and said he's so limited with his passing. He's got massive limitations, and we was absolutely slated beyond belief. We come in for so much stick because at the time he didn't stop scoring goals, kept popping up in the box, and I was basically saying he's like a basketball player. He jumps so high and he comes out of nowhere into the opposition box. But as a footballer, he's really, really limited, and we got just so much abuse for saying it. And then all of a sudden we get down the line, and everyone's now. But the thing that I don't understand a little bit is I know that Fornals has got far more ability than Soucek. But when you talk about Fornals, everyone says, all we ask for as West Ham fans is they give everything. I do think Soucek gives everything. I think he puts his head on the line time and time again. He sticks his head in there. He's not afraid to get bashed up and nose bleeds and cut his head open and whatever else. He puts himself about and puts himself on the line for West Ham United. And there are times where he's been really, really important for, like the Seville game at home, games like that. He has been a colossus at times, just an absolute pest. He was the player who was letting Rice bomb forward. He was the player, and he looked to me like a man who, while he never moaned, while he never threw his toys out of his pram, he looked depressed. He loves getting into the opposition box. He loves popping up there. He loves scoring goals. He's always done it for his country, and he always done it when he played for his previous team. And when we put the reins on him and said, you basically can't go past that halfway line, all of a sudden, all those important bits of his game, the bits that he loved, the bits of where he was effective, was taken away from him. And he looked every game after every game that he played in that role to let Declan Rice go forward. He looked like he was getting more and more depressed, more and more frustrated, more and more like he wanted to be let off the reins. And then, this season at Bournemouth, everyone was saying he was man of the match. What a fantastic game he had. And all right, since then, he's been a bit up and down. He's had some all right moments. He's had some bad moments so far this season. But I think Soucek is the sort of player for me that massively important in Europe, will do a job in those early European games. I think he's got a massive role to play at West Ham. I think everyone needs to get off his back a little bit. We know what his limitations are, and they've always been the same. We're not seeing anything different. He's never been able to pass the ball very well. He's never been that fast. He's never had all these things that people moan about with Soucek. It's always been the case. But we put the reins on him. We took his best parts of his game away. And I still think he's got a massive, massive role to play for West Ham. And, we need to get behind him and he can do an important job for us in these group European stages. Is he the man we want for the future of West Ham in the Premier League? Absolutely not. But as a squad player, to do a job when we've got loads of games coming thick and fast this year, Thursdays and Sundays, plus we've got the other cups, the domestic cups to worry about, for me, still a massive role to play, mate.
Yeah, I think that's one thing we don't notice is that, again, confusing for me, and hopefully is a good way of looking at it, is that every time we think last year Moyes was going to one game away from getting the sack, we won. We won a trophy. We started well. And when we talk about Bowen wants to leave or not leave, or Rice wanted to leave, but then he stayed another year, Soucek wanted a rest, carried on playing. Antonio, does he want to play up front? No, he doesn't. But these players, more often than not, they give 100% to David Moyes. No matter what we say, we grind out the results. They play for him. He's got that spirit. And yeah, we get it wrong in the market sometimes. But then now, a lot of clubs want our players suddenly, So we're doing something right. I mean, Bowen was a signing that came in after Moisey. Soucek, whatever Kufal Soucek cost, we've got a lot out of him for the money. Sign Alvarez, people looking at him. Aguerd, people want him. I think Zuma's been a great signing, apart from one or two very small things. Antonio, when you look back on his record, 8 years, what he cost, how much games he's played, goals he scored, he shut me up, even though I have a go at him all the time. So, it's, you got to look at both sides of these things, which is very interesting, really. I did say we're going to stick around for about an hour. We're about, I'm going to go on for another 5 minutes, and there's 3 quick topics I want to go through. Go around the block quickly. Ian, Europa draw, mate. If you can quickly let me know what you thought about the group draw and that kind of thing, what you're hoping to get from that tournament this year, mate.
I think we need a decent run in it. I think we could top that group if we perform like we did in the Conference League last year. Do I think we'll win it? I think that potentially is possibly a step too far, but I certainly think we should get easily into the knockout stages and say at least enjoy it while we can, sort of thing.
Over to you, Mike. Europa draw, mate. You happy with the draw? What are you hoping to get out of it this season, mate?
Exactly what you said. Right, I think we'll get out the group. I think we should win the group. We've got a good enough squad. I think it's something we've probably better squad if you look overall than we've had previously in Europe. We're experienced in Europe now. It's our 3rd season. A lot of those players play quite a lot in Europe, and so I think we really should be out of that group, preferably and hopefully in first place, and then take it a draw at a time, see who we get. There are some very good teams in this year, though. Very good teams.
And the ones that will drop down from the Champions League, Sevilla. They'll drop down, mate.
Ain't that bitch? Do you know what I mean? Like, it's tough enough already, thanks. But so it'll be interesting to see what happens. But enjoy it. What
about you, Gatesy, mate? Europa, what are you thinking, mate?
Listen, this is a much tougher proposition to win than the Conference League. Let's not kid ourselves. And exactly what Mike's just said there, you've also got to factor in that you're going to have there's going to be some heavy hitters coming down from the Champions League into this tournament, which will then make the the depth, the quality that you've got to get past, that much more difficult when you hit the last 16. So it's one of those. I mean, I think that we should win that group? Yeah, we should. But do you know what? And I said this to a few people in the last week or so. I said, do you know what? What if we finished third, dropped back into the Conference League and defended it? And, would anybody actually say that was a bad season if we were competitive in the Premier League and we won another European trophy back to back? I'm not saying I want that to happen. Let's make that very clear. But if we won it back to back, well, we've won fuck all in 43 years. If we could get two trophies in 2 seasons, who really cares?
I'll be all right. I was worried. Freiburg, when they came in as the third seed, that kind of got me thinking. They're from Germany. I think the group's not easy.
No, it's not. I mean, Olympiacos away's not got to be a push under.
Yeah. Frankie, the European competition expert, what do you think, mate, with the draw? Were you happy?
Just to pick up on what Gatesy said there, you're better off finishing third than you are second. Because if you finish second, we play whoever finishes third in Group F for the Champions League, which is either PSG, Dortmund, AC Milan, or Newcastle. So you're pretty much, that's the end of your run. So if you finish second, you might as well finish third and go in the Conference League and have a better chance of going further in the tournament. That second place is no good. The home games are going to be massive to us. We have to win our home games, and go into Germany and go into Greece is going to be really, really tough, much tougher than people realise. So I think we're going to struggle to win the group. I hope I'm wrong. I hope we come out and do it. The home games for me are massive. We've all got to get over there, get behind them and make them massive nights, because they're going to be really important. And like I said, if you said to me now, do you want to take second place or do you want to take third? I'll take third, thank you very much, because I don't fancy ourselves against PSG, AC Milan or Dortmund for a second. So, yeah.
Because I know, Frankie, you wanted us to be at some of the iconic grounds in Europe, the old big club. I'm hearing the Milan stadium's going to stay, I don't know, I could be wrong. They kept thinking about knocking it down. I don't know what's going on with that now. I think it might stay in some shape. But Olympiacos, is that iconic name for you?
Not enough for me.
Not quite. No.
That is the other side. If we do finish second and we get one of those, either PSG, Dortmund or AC Milan, then it becomes a big night. But forget that. Even Newcastle, mate, a domestic European match against Newcastle would be massive as well. It'd be huge. So you imagine going up to there on a Thursday night and then them coming back down to London Stadium. It'd be unbelievable, mate. Absolutely unbelievable. So there's some occasions there. But what I'm saying is, if you want to go as far as you can in a tournament, I don't think that second place is good enough. And you've really got to come out fast and pick up points early on and try and win that group as much as possible.
I mean, when those fans come to London Stadium, any of them on your naughty chart to keep an eye on?
I think Olympiacos will come with a lot of colour and will be lively. I think they'll be even more lively out there, but I think they'll be colourful, mate, and it could be quite interesting. So, yeah, it'd be fun, wouldn't it? And the Germans as well. That's always be interesting as well. So,
well, I hope they don't bring an ambassador where they chuck a water bottle in a shopping trolley and that kind of thing. We'll see.
And then we'll build another bigger wall between us and the away end again.
Yeah. Ian, Europa, mate. I did ask you, didn't I?
Yeah.
Anyone I haven't asked about Europa? Gatesy did ask? Asked everyone. Right. Final point. And again, Lingard. Mike, Lingard, mate. Yes or no? Or any comments on him, mate?
I don't really see why we need him. We've got quite a lot of players like him now. Do you know what I mean? Like, where's he going to play?
We've submitted a team sheet. There's room for him. I think there's one room for him.
False 9, maybe?
Yeah, but I mean, we've got, what's his name, the new player, the Ghana player. We've got
Kudus. Yeah.
Kudus likes to play there. He prefers to play through the middle, right? He's a 10 or a false 9, also plays on the right, okay. And you got Fornals is still there. I know he might be going in January or whatever, but at the moment he's still there. You got Paqueta there. We've got a lot of players banging around for that position. I mean, look, he was brilliant, absolutely brilliant for that half a season. Really.
Oh, look at this good point. AFCON cover.
Yeah. AFCON cover's good. Okay, that's good. Yeah, and that is a good point. I'd rather see him on the left than Ben Rama. That's another discussion because I am just up to here with Ben Rama, but never mind. And I think it's I don't know. I'm a bit meh about it. I don't know. I'm not bothered. It just doesn't. I don't really want to have an opinion on it. If he comes in, he comes in. If he doesn't, he doesn't. He was terrible last season at Forest. Absolutely terrible. Sorry, can't resist the pun. Pulled up no trees there, did he? And it's just like he's like he just did. He's nothing there. He did nothing at Man U when he went back there. He's done nothing since that 6-month spell.
Yeah.
4-month spell really. 2 years ago.
Yeah, let's see what happens. I think there's a couple of other clubs sniffing around, and let's see what kind of deal. There's no way he warrants a 1-year deal and things like that. And I think we did try to bring 1 or 2 bodies in on that last day of the window. It didn't happen. We have submitted a team sheet to the Premier League, 24 players, leaving that one space for a free transfer. So, Ian, is that going to be Lingard, mate? Is he going to be our 25th player?
It was good while it lasted. We offered him a lifeline, didn't we, to his footballing career, and he turned his nose up at it. So I think we should buy him a bus ticket back from whatever rock he crawled out from again. I don't think it's worth spending any more time or effort on, if I'm honest.
Fair enough. Gatesy, what about you, mate?
No, I think fuck him off down the road, quite frankly. I mean, and I can't work out. Can someone explain to me why he was with us for 4 months or thereabouts, right? So why the fuck do we owe him anything, especially after the way he treated us? But, if you want to train to keep fit, mate, why don't you piss off back to Manchester United or something? You spent 20 years there. Fuck off and train with them.
Frankie Lingard.
I can't stand a little prick, mate. He's everything about a person that I cannot stand. He's everything about the modern day football world, the modern day social media type person that I really hate. What he did to us before, our people can forgive that. I look at him and I just want to chin the fella. I hate him with a passion. I really, really can't stand him. I can't stand what he stands for. I can't stand out the lack of seriousness to him. My club is a serious thing to me. I love West Ham United. It means everything and always has done. It means everything to me. It meant everything to me dad. It means everything to my son. And football's life to us, mate. It's a very, very serious thing. And Harry pisses around with it and takes it so flippantly and thinks it's all a joke and thinks he can act like a clown and whatever else. I can't have it, mate. I can't have it. I don't like it. I think Harry treated us before was disgusting. Coming out and going in that interview, they showed me more love. No, they showed you more of that green colour that that's the only reason you play football for, mate. You don't play it for football. You play it for money, and that's all you're interested in. His silly social media videos in designer gear and all that. One thing I'll give him, he looks like he's a good dad, and he looks like he's a decent family man, and obviously he's had a lot of issues with his family in the past and that, and he's looked after him, and that I respect him for. But on a level of someone who I want in my football club, I'd love to just stick him in a room, like in a dressing room with Julian Dix and fucking John Moncur, and just have proper people around him and go on, act like an idiot now. They wouldn't have had it. They would not have tolerated it. They wouldn't have stood for it. And they would have made him realise very quickly what West Ham are all about, mate. And sorry about that. But
No, I think you're right. I mean, that first spell did surprise everyone, the way he hit the ground running and just walked in and got us into Europe and even more into Champions League nearly and things like that. And why it didn't happen after that, bit of United, bit of him, but the Forest time, just messing about with us and things like that. What makes me surprising is why Moyes is inviting that thing again, where Moyes usually looks at a person's character, background and team spirit, and I'm surprised at that, why Moyes entertained it again, which is really confusing for me, mate. But let's see. There are a lot more points to talk about that we'll go into the following show. But listen, 1 hour, 10 minutes of your valuable evening, gentlemen. It's been a pleasure. Gatesy, thank you very much, mate, making a nice special appearance, mate. Ian,
you're very welcome.
Thank you.
Ian, I know lots of things sort of personally, as you know, you juggle. And Mike, pleasure to have you back. And all the comments about Mike, forget me, loving Mike, mate. So Mike, hope you're back, mate, for good. And it'd be good. And Frankie, as usual, doing good stuff. And hopefully by the next show, we'll kind of put that West Ham Way events into our shows and promote that. And I personally ain't going to miss one. I love that kind of thing, meeting players and that kind of thing. And hopefully VIP ticket, we can swap the beers for spirits, but that's for off the screen chat with Frankie. We'll sort that out. But yeah, but thanks everyone, and thanks everyone in the chat. Have a great evening, and we'll catch up next couple of days. Take care.
Nice seeing you all. See you later.
Take care. Bye.